Welcome back to Up Front and our discussion of the ballot measure on Tuesday that would change the way the state's Chief Justice is selected. We just heard the argument for change from attorney Rick Essenberg of Will. Now the view to leave things as they are with former Supreme Court Justice Janine Geske. Good to have you back on the program.
Nice to be here, Mike.
Well, why should we keep things the way they are? Rick Essenberg's argument is that this is a good idea. It's a common sense idea. Why shouldn't we do this? Why should we keep the status quo?
Well, I'm concerned because we're changing the status quo because of partisan interests and also corporate donations and interests to get this current Chief Justice out of that position. You know, I'm not so sure it's not a bad idea to change the process, but I think we ought to step back and say, look at all the states. There are multiple ways of choosing Chief Justice. Maybe this is a good way, maybe it's not for Wisconsin, but there's been no public policy discussion. This is a rush to get this on the ballot to remove Chief Justice Abrahamson from the position, and I don't think we should change our Constitution because some people don't like the current Chief Justice.
And give me a sense of what you think would be the result if this were to pass and that we would see this change.
I think there's going to be such a quick change of Chief Justice that we can barely take a breath afterwards. There's no question that they've been very vocal. There are at least 4 members of the court that don't like her, and I think it's clear that they will remove her as Chief Justice, and they'll elect somebody else. I'm not sure who it will be. And the other provision in this amendment, which there hasn't been much thought to, is it's only a 2-year term. It takes a long time to have the institutional knowledge of how to do that job well. 2 years isn't long enough. So, I mean, there are problems with it, and I am really concerned that this isn't a policy decision. It is simply to get Chief Justice Abrahamson out of that position.
Not a policy decision. So, in your mind, definitely politics involved. But Rick Essenberg's argument is, does that make it a bad idea? There may be politics. Politics are attached to much of what we discuss in today's world. But does it make it a bad idea?
Well, I'm not here to say it's a bad idea. I'm here to say we haven't studied it. I think 2 years is not a good idea. I think there ought to be a process to it. We ought to look. Some states use sort of a judicial nominating committee outside of the court to do it. Right now, that court is divided. There's been a lot of public outcry about the problems on the court, and it's clearly a move to upset the Chief Justice who was elected as Chief Justice in that position without any discussion by the electorate. Do we really want to change our Wisconsin Constitution because of this one incident now? What are we going to do in 2 years when we don't like it? We're going to change the Constitution again? I think that's really a bad policy decision to approach it in this way.
You were named to the court by former Governor Thompson, and then after serving a number of years decided to move on into a university setting. But you've done something that you've just not done prior to this time. You've done both a radio ad and a television ad, and you have stayed out of the political fray for the most part. Why did you feel like this is something I'm going to do this time around?
Well, you know, I've not taken a position on campaigns. I've entered into this because I care about the institution of our judiciary and its independence from the legislature and the governor's office. That's a critical role of the third branch of government. And I think that the legislature and the governor's office and special interests are trying to cut away at the strength of the judiciary. And I think in the long run, the citizens of Wisconsin are going to be the losers.
And give us your experience. You said you served under how many different Chief Justices?
3 different Chief Justices. Very different philosophically, politically from each other, but all great justices. The advantage, though, of each of those Chief Justices is they'd been on the court for a long time. They knew the rules of the court. They understood the dynamics of working with the legislature. They had the institutional knowledge of where the court had been and where it was going. Now there's no guarantee that somebody might not get elected to that court who wasn't even, elected as Chief Justice who hasn't been elected. The governor could appoint someone to a vacancy, and the court could turn around and elect that person as Chief Justice, and the public will never have elected that person. I think that's not a good idea, and I really do think there is something to the institutional wisdom and experience before you become Chief Justice.
Former Supreme Court Justice Janine Geske, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much for being with us.
You're welcome.
And I'll be right back with some final thoughts about Tuesday's election.